Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Nick
I'm Bills.
I'm Shiesty's domain.
from Top Notch Sports, and today we're adding our first debate in quite some time. Okay, we added the Bengals, we added the Bills, and now we're going to let these two experts in their fields try to argue why their quarterback's better. So today's topic of debate is who's better, Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? And I'm not going to do, I can make this so many different things, but I just want you guys to have a platform to say who is a better quarterback. I don't want to talk about, you guys can mention their accolades, you guys can mention statistics, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, I want to know why you think this guy is a better quarterback. So to start off the stage, okay, I'm gonna allow, Shicey's domain, you're a Bengals guy. You can find both these guys on Instagram, and we'll talk about that at the end. But we're gonna kick this thing off right away. Give us insight on why you believe Joe Burrow is great, and I'll give you however long you want to go. Go ahead, you tell me why you think this guy is great.
I think you look at what he's done in terms of like the culture, right? When he was drafted, we went 2-14, then rookie season for his ACL, and then come back, go to a Super Bowl, coming off of an ACL injury with the worst offensive line in the league. That's no small thing. And then coming back again next season, playing even better. Falling just short to Kansas City, making it back to another Super Bowl. But yeah, I feel like Burrow's the most consistent and the most accurate quarterback in the league. I have him at two. I think Mahomes is kind of the clear cut one at this point, but I think Burrow's two simply because of how consistent and accurate. And, like he doesn't make mistakes, but like he's a leader. He plays the quarterback position insanely well.
For sure. And like you said, you mentioned how they were 2-14. He ultimately gets to a Super Bowl. Good culture guy, right? Change the culture of the Cincinnati Bengals. You say he's consistent and accurate. He doesn't make many mistakes, and he's a good leader. Okay, so those are your main claims for Joe Burrow, correct? Did I miss anything?
Nope.
Okay, all right, cool. So now, Bills, I'm gonna give you your chance to, the floor is yours. Why do you think? Give us insight on why you think Josh Allen is great.
Okay, yeah, I would like to first just say that I do think Joe Burrow is a great quarterback, and my argument's just going to be why Josh is better. It's like I still think both of these guys are top three QBs, with Mahomes being number one. It's just who you have at two and three. Um, but yeah, I just similar to like what Tracy's domain said about Joe is good. Like Josh Allen is great for Bills Mafia's culture. He's been fantastic just for the fans and the team as a whole. But just as a player, he is very, very good at making like things happen during plays. Like if something's not there, the offensive line gets blown up, whatever, he will go and try his best to make a play. Now that can also lead to him, like maybe throwing a pick or something because he's trying whatever he can to make plays happen. But the thing I love about him is that he has the heart to win games always. Like he's almost never in doubt of like winning a game. He's always got the attitude and the mentality to always go out of his way to win, and he's got all the physical attributes you want a quarterback to have. And he's just overall, I think he's like a great person to like be around. Like if you're one of his teammates, I think you would like to be around a guy like that. Like he's a quarterback you'd want to have on your team. And yeah, like I said, he's also a guy you would want to play with if you're like a wide receiver, just because he has such a big arm. He is able to make things happen. He will get you the ball if you need it. So yeah, that's why I think he is just a special quarterback.
Absolutely. And again, you mentioned a lot of things, right? And I want to make sure we make this clear, right? We are talking about two of the greatest. So when we say that one guy is better than another guy, we're talking better, but these are one of the like these two guys are like the top five quarterbacks in the National Football League, however you want to put it. And at the end, maybe we'll talk about who you guys think your top five is. So let me actually write that down so I don't forget. So we can talk about that segment at the very end here. So basically for you, Bills Mafia, you said, this guy's a culture guy, especially for the Bills Mafia, because he just is a perfect match for that crowd. He's a playmaker. He extends plays, that can lead sometimes to interceptions, but he's a playmaker and he's able to make these plays that most quarterbacks aren't even able to make. You mentioned that
Yep.
he has the attitude that even when they're down or whatnot, he has that attitude to always fight to try to win the game. He has great physical attributes, and you mentioned his big arm, which again nobody can really deny. So you both made your case for that. Now let me ask you this. Okay, so we mentioned that. I want to mention now, I want you guys to give me like 2 or 3 things. It doesn't have to be exactly 2 or 3 things, but what are like the main things you would say this guy is good at? So, Shicey Zemain, I'll start with you. What are the things that you're preaching that this guy is really good at? I mean, you mentioned some things, both of you mentioned some things, but what specifically, just so we can, I told you to give me your campaign speech basically. Now I just want you to give me your points of emphasis here. What is Burrow really good at?
Burrow is, like I said, he's probably the most accurate quarterback in the league. He led the league in completion percentage back in 21, and then he was third in the league in 22. And I think the most impressive thing is how like he just doesn't get flustered, right? He was sacked 51 times in the Super Bowl run in that season, and then 41 times last season, right? He's unfazable. And then something I think I've said before is he's an assassin. He picks apart defenses, doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes, and he's a big time playmaker. He knows what it takes to win, and he's in games sometimes. So they just pick this team up, put him on their back, put them on his back, and just carry them to a win.
For sure. And Bill, same question to you. What are your points here?
So but it's for Josh, I'm assuming, right? You want me to say, yeah,
Yeah, for
okay.
Josh. Yeah.
Yeah. So he he's very good at running the ball. That's one of his strong sides. Is the fact that he's like an elite passer on his own. The fact that he also has the dual threat abilities of being like a scary rusher too. Like I think obviously people know him as like a elite kind of like rushing kind of quarterback. Like he's a threat running the ball, but almost I feel like some people almost don't realize how good he is at it just because he does look a bit unorthodox when he's running the ball. It's not really like the I guess prettiest form when he's running, but he's like a bowling ball when he's running. People don't like defensive backs. He's also like he's huge. So these defensive backs, they don't really want to try and run up to him and like make a big hit on him. They because he like we've seen it before. He can stiff arm people. He hurdles them. He does whatever he needs to. He can truck through them to get these extra yards. He hasn't necessarily been like a super accurate quarterback like an Aaron Rodgers, but he always is able to get the ball where it needs to be, and he can get it in tight windows and stuff. And a lot of that is helpful just because of how powerful his arm is. Like he has a very strong arm. He's great at getting deep balls. And like I said, extending plays, making them happen. He can like single-handedly change how a game will turn out just off like one drive. So
For sure. And again, like I said, you guys are both mentioning really good points of what these guys can do and what they're good at. And again, with that being said, there's also some flaws to these guys' game. I'm not going to go to the flaws though. The next thing I want to mention, I'm gonna try to refrain myself as much as I can until the end of this. Leadership. Okay, tell me why you think you guys have what kind of leader are they, and what leadership qualities do they bring? And then I'll tell you at the end of this segment here about leadership, I'll tell you what I think about these two. So, Shicey Zemain, I'll let you go again. Joe Burrow, leadership, what do you think?
I think he's not necessarily the most vocal guy, but he leads by example. You look at like all the reports and like what the free agent guys come in and say about Joe Burrow, they're all super high and all about like his character, not necessarily about him on the football field. Some of them do mention that, but a lot of them mention like his character and what type of leader he is. And yeah, so guys just they like gravitate towards him. They want to be around him. They want him as the quarterback of their team. And I think that kind of demonstrates exactly what Joe Burrow's all about.
Absolutely. And then let me hear you, Bills. What do you think the leadership style of Allen?
So yeah, Allen is a very good leader for his team, but it's not necessarily in the sense where he will go around like telling his players necessarily what to do. He's the type of guy he'll get everyone hyped. Like he'll just make jokes on the sideline. He's just gonna be like kind of a good spirit to keep people positive during games. He's gonna like rally people together when they need to be ready for like a big drive. He's more of like bring the team together rather than be like one single leader and tell the guys like what they need to be doing. Um, you know, so he's more of build a big group and make them work together rather than having everybody single out together. And that's what I really like about him. He just seems to have like a energy with to him where he's like able to, bring a whole team up and like get them to where they need to be for the next drive. So that's one thing I love about his leadership.
And again, like I said, my main difference between these two are, I feel like, just Joe Burrow's personality, he's a very likable guy. I mean, I think I'm not saying this is against Josh Allen. Josh Allen's very likable as well, but Joe Burrow is a guy that, the media is absolutely in love with him right now. And it was just like this, what was it, 2 years ago with Josh Allen? Now Josh Allen's starting to like fade away from the eye of the media a little bit, and now it's Joe Burrow, and then I'm sure in 2 years Joe Burrow will fade away. There'll be somebody else. But my thing is that Joe Burrow is a guy that, I think he's a little bit more. Let me start with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's a guy that's going to lead by, when the game's on the line, he's going to lower his shoulder and run somebody over. And, that's going to hype up his team. He's a leader in the sense of he's going to do something that's going to make something happen. I think Joe's a little bit more of a vocal leader than Josh Allen. Now, again, this is not even Josh Allen's vocal. I'm just saying that I think Josh is going to lead more by his playing style. He's going to lower his shoulder and run somebody over to try to win the game. And that's his leadership. People want to play with a guy that's willing to lower his shoulder. Now, I've seen Joe Burrow do the same. I've seen Joe Burrow, I saw the clips where he doesn't know how to slide, but I've seen him dive forward before and try to pick up, on 3rd and 1, he'll dive forward and try to pick up the first down and stuff like that. So they both lead, I think Allen's more of a guy that's going to try to put his team on his shoulders and really, maybe risk his body to pick up a first down or something, but that's how he's going to hype up his team. As for Burrow's more of I think he's more of a vocal guy, a little bit more of a rah-rah guy maybe on the sideline, trying to get Jamar Chase and those guys to really work with him. I just feel like they're two different. I mean, again, I know they'll both try to put their team on their shoulders and try to lead them the way. I think Allen's more of I'm going to put you really on my shoulders, and Burrow's a little bit more vocal and a typical leader, let me put it that way, than someone like Josh Allen. Again, two different styles. Neither of them are bad. They're both good qualities to have.
Yeah,
all right.
Can I just butt in really quick there?
Go ahead.
So, yeah, it's more of like it can be a bad thing at times, but I feel like Josh doesn't necessarily want to disrespect anybody by like overruling them and trying to be like, I'm higher up, like I'm the, he seems to like respect everybody's decision. Like I know another thing, I think Aaron Rodgers did it a lot, was like he would, if there was a play call he didn't like, he would immediately just audible it or something, and he'd do something he doesn't like. I feel like Josh Allen's not the type of guy to do that. He almost does a lot of things out of respect because he wants people to like, he wants everyone to work together well. He doesn't want bad relationships. So when he's like working as a leader, he tries to make everybody work as a group, like I mentioned before.
For sure. And like I said, all right, so leadership, like I said, I really feel like they're two different style leaderships, but again, I'm letting you guys make your case. Now, the next thing I want to mention, the team around them. Okay. What do you think about the team? I mean, any argument here being made for why you think your guy's better? I'll start with you, Stacey's Domain, and then I'll go to Bills. So the entire career, I mean, we're not just focusing on one season, but do you think, Burrow's had a team around him and mentioned, possibly when he didn't and what maybe he was able to do? And now, if you think whatever, just you give me, do you think he's had a team around him and so on and so forth, especially compared to Bills?
Yeah, again, like his rookie season, he had like pretty much no team around him really. So that's what, like he won 2 games before he tore his ACL. But then you jump to his sophomore season, right? You get Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Like T. Higgins kind of blooms. I mean, he had Tyler Boyd's rookie season, but again, like he didn't have, like Higgins hadn't bloomed yet. But then you go to 21 season. I mean, yeah, like he had the best receiving trio in the league, but he also had the worst offensive line in the league. So there's like that. Like he didn't have a whole lot of time to like really pick apart defenses in 21. Even last season, like he still didn't have a whole lot of time. He had the second fastest release in all football. And then I went and look at a lot of people like to discredit Burrow, saying how he's carried by his receivers. I went, especially like Chase, I went and looked at Burrow's statistics. When Chase is less than 100 yards in a game, Burrow averages 258 yards and a 68.4 completion percentage, which, I mean, that's not going to blow anyone away, but it's not like he's being, just carried by his receiving core. Burrow, I said it before, I think to some extent they both, like, the receiving core makes Burrow look better and Burrow makes the receiving core look better. I think it's kind of like a mutual relationship, like one's not carrying the other per se.
I agree. And again, I'm going to give you guys tough questions to answer here too. Let me ask you this now, okay? This is not a political debate where we give you softball questions. I'm going to do hard questions. So let me ask you this. Let me hear do you think that he has better weapons than Josh Allen?
I would put Chase and Diggs pretty much even, but then after that, yes, Higgins is better than Gabe Davis, and Tyler Boyd is better than Isaiah McKenzie. But then
Okay.
you look, the Bills' offensive line wasn't great last season. They were ranked 23rd. Cincinnati's was ranked 29th. So Josh Allen has a little more time to throw the ball, I feel like. But yeah, Burrow's definitely got some better guys around him than I think most quarterbacks in the league do.
All right, Bills, here we go. Same question for you. Okay. Team around them. What do you think for Josh Allen?
So I think like Josh Allen's first 2 seasons, he really didn't have much. He didn't have anything to work with, which kind of brings an argument that people bring into his third season when he got Diggs. So people will try to say like that it's because Diggs that he's a good quarterback, which I'm going to be honest, it doesn't really make a lot of sense because you can't really have a wide receiver necessarily make a quarterback good. Obviously, you can make the quarterback look better with a good wide receiver, but you can't make a quarterback elite just by being an elite wide receiver because somebody has to get the ball to the wide receiver, and it's not the wide receiver. He's not throwing it to himself. Um, but yeah, I think after that, like once we got Diggs, which I believe that was the 2020 season, and then beyond, we've had one of the best rosters in the NFL. So I would say overall, Josh has had a lot of help. Like he's had good weapons, but I do think there has been like some minor things that could have been improved to help him more, to push the team over the edge and bring them to where they need to be, to try and like win a Super Bowl.
All right, so now I'm going to ask you the direct question I asked before. Do you think Josh Allen has had better weapons than Joe Burrow directly, or do you think it's been the other way around?
So I would say no, not really. I think so. Joe Burrow having Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I think as a whole, their wide receiver group was significantly better than ours. But that's also like they probably had one of the best in the league. So you could say that to almost any team. I would say we probably have had the better tight end though, throughout, each of their careers. And if you want to like talk offensive line wise, yes, Joe Burrow has also had a really bad O line, definitely worse than Josh's most likely. But they both are kind of working with not that much on the offensive line. So it would be nice to for both of the fan bases and just as a team to have them both have a reliable O line. It would be a lot better for them as quarterbacks, which is another thing that's really impressive is that these guys are both, like top 5 quarterbacks with not very good offensive lines. And I know we're talking weapons wise, but you could kind of consider the defense, into it. I would say players wise, just like on paper, like the depth chart, the Bills have probably had a better defense every year over the Bengals, but then I think it comes down to coaching in playoff. Like the playoff performances have not been better. So I I do actually have stats to back that up as well. Um, like in the postseason, the Bills defense has allowed 25 or more points 4 times, 20 or more points 6 times, and have only got 5 interceptions and 2 fumble recoveries. Whereas Joe Burrow's defense has had 25 or more points 0 times and only 20 points 3 times. So, oh, and they also, they had 10 interceptions and 3 fumble recoveries compared to, Josh's. So I think um, coaching on the defensive side was an issue when it comes to the postseason. But other than that, I would say, we've had the better defense just on paper.
Bengals, any rebuts to those statistics, maybe, or are they fair to use?
No, I think that's kind of fair. I got something that I'd like to add. If you look at like Buffalo and then the 4 teams that were in the championship rounds, every single one of those quarterbacks had like either like at least one really good weapon. Like I know like the Chiefs didn't have a lot, but they had Travis Kelce, and then maybe one of like the greatest offensive minded coaches ever. And then Philly and San Francisco had, the top 2 defenses. So I always get kind of angry when they say like, quarterbacks are being carried by their receivers or being carried by their team. Like all of the top teams in the league have good players at every level. It's not just like, oh, the quarterback's being carried by everyone else. No, the quarterback makes everyone better, but every good team has good players at every level. And
One
so
thing
it
I
just
want,
kind of annoys me when so like people say how like Burrow or Allen is carried by their like receivers or by their team.
yeah, one thing I want to really mention about these two quarterbacks, and like Bill's mentioned before too, and like you're mentioning, the one thing I got to say is that both of you have had I think, especially for when you talk about top quarterbacks in the game. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes, most people's, number one guy. He has had one of the best offensive lines around him his entire career. Pair that up with one of the greatest coaches to ever coach a game. Some could argue that Andy Reid's the best coach in the entire history of the NFL. That helps. Okay. Jalen Hurts now, everyone's giving him a lot of hype. And again, I'm not. We could have the Hurts, the Philly guy on here and represent Hurts, but he didn't want to do that, I guess. Top offensive line, and then you got you two guys. Neither of you have a top tier offensive line. Definitely not top 10. Probably not even the top 15. Probably right around, what would you say, 17 to 32? I mean, I think you can make an argument. I mean, it's tough because everyone wants to say, "Oh, our offensive line wasn't good," to boost the argument. It's somewhere probably in the lower half. I think we can both say that, correct? From both of you?
Yeah.
Or yeah, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so probably 20 and below. But let's just say anywhere from 20 to 32, both your offensive lines ranked. Kansas City and Philadelphia, two quarterbacks that are hot on the top 10 list right now, especially Hurts is making a drastic jump, has the best offensive line in the National Football League. So when you start mentioning weapons and line, I think you guys can make a fair argument that these two quarterbacks, in theory, clearly have less protection. But I think you can go as far as to say should probably be still ranked higher than some of these guys. And me, I'm going to tell you right now, I have both these guys ranked higher than Hurts. And I listen. I'm not going to go there because I get my head chopped off. But seriously, I mean, you got to consider Mahomes' situation. It's probably been better than both of these guys' situations. So again, that's a debate for another day. But right now, let's stay on here. So let's go here now to skill set. Okay. How many boxes are checked? So I got a little game here that I'm going to do. And we got 10 minutes, before this Zoom meeting ends. So we'll just, if we got to start another one, we will. But I'm just going to ask you guys questions. And I'm just going to make little tiny check marks. So we're going to see how many points we're at when it's all said and done. When I scout players, I scout these things. And I want to hear who you give the nod to. There is no ties. You got to choose one. So we're going to start here. Okay. So Shiesty, I'll go with you first. And then Bills Mafia, I'll go with you second, and we'll just keep it in that order. So let's start here. Overall, just throwing the football, okay? You can take that however you may. Who do you give the nod to, Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? Who do you got?
I'd say Burrow.
Burrow, one for throwing. And Bills Mafia, who do you got?
If we're just going strictly throwing, I think I'll take Burrow.
Okay. So there's 2 for Joe Burrow. All right. Arm power, meaning zip on the football. And we'll start with you, Bills Mafia, now. The zip on the football itself. Who do you think has better, Joe Burrow or Josh Allen?
Josh, and I don't think it's debatable.
Okay. And you, let's hear Shicey.
Yeah, it's Allen. It's not even close.
Okay. All right. So right now, we are tied up. Throwing all around, we got Burrow, zip, Allen. Okay. Next one. Arm strength. Who can throw the ball farther? So Shicey, I'll start with you. And I mean, this is what I look at in a quarterback. I look at every single little thing. So maybe you guys think it's unfair, but we'll just go. Arm strength. Who do you got?
Allen, he can throw probably 20 yards further than Burrow.
Yep. And then let's hear it. Go ahead, Bills.
Yeah, I would also say that.
Okay. Next one. Okay, Bills, we're going to start with you. Pocket awareness. Now, this isn't running around. This is, oh, shoot, there's a guy behind me. I'm going to step up in the pocket, and I just know because I had that sixth sense that someone's coming from my blind side. Who do you give the nod to? Josh Allen or Joe Burrow?
Man, that's a tough one. I think they're both very good at it. Just from watching Josh, I think I'd have to say him. So
Okay, yep. And Shiesty, who do you go with?
I gotta go with Burrow. The only guy I've ever seen a better pocket presence in all of football ever is Tom Brady.
Yep. All right, let me just see because now I'm confusing myself. Yep, I'm sorry. Here we go. So let me do here. One here and one there. Yeah, so we got, all right, 1 Allen, 1 Burrow for that one. Let me just make sure that is all right. Yes, I think. All right, I'm confusing myself. All right, next one, pocket mobility. Now, this is, there's someone around. Same thing kind of coincides with pocket awareness, but not so much. Pocket mobility means I'm going to move around in the pocket. I may extend outside the pocket, not mobility. I'm running with the football, but now I'm moving outside of the pocket. I'm extending the plays downfield. Whoever wants to go first, go ahead.
Yeah, I can go. I would say I think Burrow's better in terms of pocket mobility. He's not a better like runner, less terms of like what Josh is, but I think Burrow's the only guy better in my opinion, at, like extending plays and then throwing the football than Burrow is Mahomes. I think he does an exceptionally good job at like tucking the ball, but not tucking to run, tucking to like look downfield and throw the ball.
For sure. Okay, so you're going with Joe Burrow then, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and now let's hear it, Bills Mafia. Who are you going with here?
Yeah, I agree with what you said about Burrow, but I think you could say a lot of the same things apply to Allen. Obviously, I know this isn't about like literally running the ball, but I think the fact that he's a good rusher helps a lot with his ability to be able to be mobile and move around the pocket and getting outside of the pocket to make plays happen. So I'm going to be taking Allen.
Okay, and the next one's going to be accuracy, pure accuracy. Bills, I'll start with you. Who do you got?
I'll take Joe Burrow.
Okay, and then now Shiesty.
Yeah, I got Shiesty. I think Burrow's better.
All right, there you go. So that's 2 for Burrow there. There we go. There's that one. All right, the next one's going to be touch. Okay, what does touch mean? Perfectly pass right in the breadbasket. Some people throw it real high, so it drops right in. Some people throw a little bit more on the line, drops right in. Either way, who has better touch? Shiesty, we'll start with you.
Burrow, I've never seen a quarterback be able to get it up over the linebackers and in front of the safeties better than I think Burrow can do. Yeah, I'm taking Burrow on that one.
Bills.
I'm gonna have to go with Allen on this one. He's just always able to, especially having a very strong arm. He's always able to get the ball over the defenders if he needs to, right where the receiver can catch it.
All right, the next one's going to be throwing on the run. Bills, will start with you. Who do you think's better throwing on the run? Again, all around. Who do you got?
I would say it would have to be Allen.
Okay, and then Shiesty.
I got Burrow. I think Burrow again, like throwing on the run, it's really difficult to be accurate. But Burrow he's impressively accurate. He's not going to throw it. He's not going to be able to throw it like 50 plus yards downfield on the run, but he's going to be able to get it to his guy just as consistently as if he had a speed set.
Yep. The next one's going to be anticipation. Shiesty, we'll start with you. As soon as they're out of their break, before they're out of their break, who's throwing that ball before they even do it? Who do you got?
Yeah, I think Burrow, like I said, he's an assassin to the defense, right? He just kind of picks them apart. He's really good at like, I think it's just built up with the connection he has with his receivers, but he's really good at throwing the ball before the receivers' heads even turned.
All right, and then Bills, who do you got?
I think just for a consistency reasons, I'd probably go Burrow, but I do think Josh can be very effective at doing it if he's on top of his game. So
Sure. Okay. Next one. Now, Bills, we're going to start with you on this one. Decision making. Who do you got and why?
I'll take Burrow, just because Allen, like I had mentioned before, he always wants to win. So sometimes it leads to him making bad passes and like double coverage or something. So yeah, I'll give that one to Burrow.
And now, Shiesty, who do you got?
Yeah, I got Burrow. I think Burrow likes to win, but I think he also realizes that he doesn't have to throw the ball into like super tight coverage and stuff like that. So I think Burrow's decision making I think that's maybe his best trait besides accuracy.
All right. The next one's going to be who's going to take the, now, again, this is a little bit of a good thing and a bad thing. Tight window. Okay. Who's going to throw that ball in a tight window and squeeze it in there? You're going to look at this one as a little bit of a mixture of zip and accuracy and everything. Who's going to take that shot in the window and who's going to stick it in there? Shiesty, we'll start with you.
Oh man, this one's tough because Allen can just throw it way harder than Joe can, but I've seen Joe put it in places that like I don't even know how on earth he put the ball there. Um, I'm gonna give it to Allen slightly, but again, I think he's really good at this too. But I think Allen is one of the best in the league at doing this.
Bills, who do you got?
I have to agree. I think Allen is one of the best when it comes to doing something like that, which once again is another thing similar to decision making, which can also lead to picks. He knows that his throws are risky, but if he sees any sort of potential opening for, a reception, he's going to throw that ball.
Yep. Okay. There's that one. All right. So I'm drawing a bunch of lines here. I'm trying to keep my document nice. All right. Next one. Okay. Mental adjustments within the game. Who's going to make those mental adjustments? They're seeing something. Maybe they're getting sacked a lot. They're going to slide the protection, whatnot. Who have you seen first half of the game maybe sucked, but second half, you can maybe credit this to the coaching, maybe making adjustments at the line of scrimmage, switching the play up. You hear them vocally making audibles. Who do you got? Bills, will start with you.
I think, like I said before, I think Josh Allen almost tries to be a bit too respectful of everybody else on the team, especially the coaching staff. He doesn't tend to really overrule other people's like coaches' calls and stuff. So I'd probably say Burrow for this one.
Okay, and Bengal, Shiesty, I'm sorry, who do you got?
Yeah, I think Burrow does a great job adjusting from first half to second half. You look at two of the matchups with the Chiefs, the one back in 2021, the regular season, and then even in the AFC Championship. I know that they lost that one, but the way that Burrow has kind of adjusted into the second half it's been impressive what he can. In the first half of the AFC Championship, they got 6 points, and then they scored 2 touchdowns in the second half. I know that they ultimately ended up losing that game. So Burrow's just really good at seeing the defenses does this, and he's actually really good in between like the first and second quarter, or like after the first drive. He can just like kind of tell what the defense is trying to do and then adjust. Like even just in between like drives, I've seen Burrow do it.
For sure. And last but not least, we got to be fast. We got less than a minute real fast. And I'll calculate this when we'll join back. Mobility. Shiesty, I'll start with you. Who has better mobility?
It's Allen. It's not even close.
Okay. And last but not least, Bills, who do you got?
Yeah, it's Allen.
Okay. All right, cool. So you both got that one. All right. I'll be back. We'll be back. We'll calculate this and we'll come back on and we'll figure it out from there. 180. 180, set. All right, we are back. The results have been officially calculated, okay, for this little mini game we did, okay? So, Shicey's domain, you had it as 4 categories go to Allen, 9 categories go to Burrow. Bills, you had 8 categories go to Allen, 5 categories go to Burrow, which results into it overall being 12 for Allen, 14 for Burrow. And last but not least, I wanted to just throw mine in there, which had it 19 total for Allen and 20 total for Burrow. So I had it 7-6. I had Allen having the lead. So if you took it that way, we had, 2 out of the 3 of us had Allen winning the majority of the categories. But overall, we still had Burrow winning, when you take all of us, one more category than Josh Allen. So that's that. And real fast, just so we can go over some things, you both had, Joe Burrow winning and throwing. You both had Josh Allen winning in power, zip, that is. You both had Josh winning in arm strength. You had a split decision on pocket awareness, a split decision on pocket mobility. You both had Burrow winning accuracy, split decision on touch, split decision on throwing on the run. Both had Burrow winning on anticipation. Both had Burrow winning in decision-making. Both had Allen winning on throwing, in tight windows. Both had Burrow winning in making adjustments during the game. And last but not least, both had Josh Allen winning in mobility. So that's that. Any questions about that?
Nope.
I think it's pretty
yeah.
damn close. It's close either way. We'll see. So that's that. All right. Here's the next thing. Okay, we're almost done with this thing, but we got about 3 more segments. If they were on the opposite teams, if right now, I just want to hear this. Okay, so real fast, Shiesty, I'll start with you. If Josh Allen was on the Bengals, okay, how do you think they would do? Would they do better or worse? And if Joe Burrow was on the Bills, how would they do, better or worse? I want to hear what now again, you don't got to keep on defending Burrow and Bills. You don't got to keep on defending Allen. I know that's the main goal, but truly, what do you think?
Honestly, I think they're both fit for their offenses super well. I think if Burrow went to Buffalo, I think Burrow would be just a little bit worse because, Allen and Chase kind of play pretty similar. But after that, like they don't have Burrow's kind of like the guy that you can kind of just throw it high and let Higgins go up and get it. They don't really have that in Buffalo. And I think, since he doesn't really have kind of like the quick, twitchy slot guys that I think Allen's used to. So I think both of them would probably take just a little bit of a dip. And this isn't like an insult to either of the teams. Both the teams have built their teams super, super well around their quarterback, with the quarterbacks being like the focal point of their teams. So I think like the teams did exactly what they're supposed to. Bengals built around Burrow extremely well, and Buffalo's built extremely well around Allen. So I think that's an insult to either quarterback or either team. I think that's just saying that, both quarterbacks fit the system that's been like built around them.
Now I'm gonna real fast. I'm gonna ask you now. Then I'll do the same thing to the Bills when we get there. But first, you. I'm asking if we put Josh Allen specifically now. This one, Josh Allen on the Bills, right? You agree that he has that zip. You agree that he has that arm strength. You agree that let's just make sure I'm not going nuts here. Yeah, arm strength. You also said that you think that he, has good tight windows and better mobility. You think if you add those things with Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, you had CJ Uzama back in the day. He's no longer there now. But those guys, I mean, because again, throughout Burrow's career, so you insert Josh Allen throughout every year, Joe Mixon, those guys, your defense, you ultimately think that they decline, or you think that they win a few extra games, or maybe do they turn that Super Bowl appearance into a Super Bowl win? Let me just hear it one more time. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page here.
I have Cincinnati going 13-4 next season. I think if they had Allen, I think they go 12-5. I think Allen, up to the statistics, Allen was like 26 or something in like time to release. Burrow was second, right? Just because Burrow's just more used to, having to get the ball out quickly. Not that Allen isn't, right? I looked it up. The Bills, like I said, the Bills offensive line was 23rd last season. Cincinnati's was 29th, right? So Burrow's just a little bit more used to having to get the ball out. And I also don't think Allen has to play guys like Miles Garrett and TJ Watt 4 times a year. So I think that would be a little bit more stressful on Allen just playing up against, those top tier edge rushers. Because like in their division, like maybe I'm just blanking on a couple of guys, but I don't think that their division has great, great defensive lines besides maybe the Jets.
Yeah, I mean the Jets, like you said, Quinton Williams is there, right? I like Jermaine Johnson that they got, and then also, I mean the Dolphins, who is it? Jalen Phillips is probably like the
Yeah.
main guy over there. So,
And Matthew Judon on the Patriots.
Patriots, yeah.
Oh, you're right. I forgot about Judon.
But still, I mean,
Judon was really good.
out of all of them, still the main guy is going to be Miles Garrett. It is by far the biggest, and TJ Watt, for the love of God. So, you guys definitely do have better edge rushers in that division. But all right, so that's that. Any rebut there, Bills, from that, and then I'll ask you the same questions.
No, I do. I really like bringing up the edge rushers in the division. I wasn't even really thinking about that, but that does make a lot of sense. I will kind of touch on that a bit more once we go, into my side of the questions. But yeah, I agree with a lot of what he said.
All right, so now let me ask you the same questions then. So first things first, what do you think if there were to swap?
Yeah, so I think if you said like if I know it doesn't technically make sense lined up, but if Allen was drafted to the Bengals and Burrow was drafted to the Bills, I think Allen might. Obviously, it's a bit hard to say because teams build around their quarterback. So obviously, we don't know how differently they would have built the team if, like say it was that way where Allen was on the Bengals. But I think if we're just going similarly, like they get all the same like type of players, but maybe they scheme a bit differently. I do think Allen might do have a bit more success on a team like the Bengals, just with the wide receiver core they have. And I think I know he brought up the like time to release like for passing. Another issue, like it is an offensive line issue, but another thing is, are your wide receivers getting open in time? And is your offensive coordinator calling plays to make it to where the wide receivers are going to get open early? Um, so there's a lot of other factors too that come into it, and I think if we flip to the side of Burrow on the Bills, I think we would have a similar level of success. I do think, although he would still be just as accurate as he is, like if we're talking literally throwing the ball, his completion percentage and stuff might drop just because guys on our teams catching the ball have had drop problems quite a bit the past couple of years. So people kind of take like the completion percentage stat a bit overboard when it comes to accuracy, because to accuracy is getting the ball there. It's not whether the receiver catches it or not. So I think it just comes down to, I think, like they're both obviously very good quarterbacks. I think they would be successful almost no matter where they were. I just don't. I don't see how it could like drastically change too much if you switch them on teams. But then just this kind of unrelated. But if you were to bring a guy like Lamar, who's more rushing oriented, I think that might be a bigger change. But just between like guys like Allen and Burrow, where obviously Allen's more of a rusher than Burrow is, but they both would successfully, I feel like, work in most teams like schemes and stuff. So if I had to say they would be better or worse switched, I think they would be about the same. I think Allen might perform a bit better with like the wide receivers Burrow had, and I think Burrow um, would do. I don't think he would change all too much being in the Bills offense, but yeah.
Well, yeah, let me ask you. So since you're saying that Allen might be better, I mean, do you think that he could have got that team? All right, Burrow got them to the Super Bowl. Do you think that Allen could have possibly gotten them there and actually won it? Or, I mean, do you think that Allen, because we haven't seen Allen get that far himself. I mean, what do you think? Do you think that he could have got them there and ultimately won with those weapons?
That's a tough one because, to be honest, I think they would have won that game if Burrow had literally like half a second more to throw the ball, because Jamar Chase had Jalen Ramsey cooked on the outside. Um,
Oh, it still hurts.
yeah. So I think it really just depends. To be honest, I think that situation could have gone many ways if, like Burrow was just able to maybe break like one sack, like or tackle just to the back before and was able to get the throw off. That could have been a win. Yeah, it's hard. You'd have to. I think there is a chance that maybe if you're in that same situation, you just need that throw to win the game.
Yeah.
Allen might be able to make it just because he has a super strong arm and he is very good under pressure. In fact, um, I believe last year he was like, I think I have like the stuff here. I know it's like PFF grades or whatever, but he was first in PFF grade while under pressure. He had the most touchdowns while under pressure and the highest passer rating while under pressure. So I believe, there's like chances where he could make it happen, but it's just, it wasn't in the quarterback's favor in that situation, we'll say. So
Yeah.
it's hard to say.
And all right. So last thing I want to mention then, I want to specifically just ask you the same question I asked him then. If now, Burrow is on the Bills, okay? And again, now you said that, Burrow is better at throwing all around, more accurate, throws better with anticipation. He's a better decision maker and he makes adjustments during the game and stuff. I mean, do you think that he could, rather than you guys stalling out in the playoffs, do you think that a guy that can be more accurate, hit the open receivers, do you think that he could ultimately got this team to the Super Bowl and possibly have won one?
I think he can, but like I've mentioned before, I think another thing with that is just the coaching hasn't necessarily been the best fit with Josh, like the way he plays. So I do think maybe if you had like Burrow in our offense instead, they might be a bit more compatible than what we currently have with Allen. So I would say if you were to put Burrow in, there might be a bit more success just based on the fact that the scheme would fit better. But that's also something you can't really know for sure. You'd have to see it happen, but that's just what I would think would happen. So
Yep. All right. And now, all right, I want to try to wrap this thing up. So we got this one now. Okay. So we talked about them being on each other's teams. Now I want to ask you, we put these two on the same team. And it's with a good offensive coordinator that's going to use Allen to use his legs. It's going to be a good offensive coordinator that's not going to use Burrow as much as his legs. He's still going to use his mobility, and they're both going to be able to throw the ball because that's what they both succeed in. Let's just say, I mean, the Chiefs were the team that we say years ago, but honestly, they're falling apart. So let's say the 49ers, okay, but they're going to use Allen to run. They're going to use, Burrow more to throw. Who ends up being better? Who gets that team further? Is it Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? So, Bills, I'll start with you, then I'll go to Shiesty. Who do you think, if they're both on the Niners, who's a better quarterback, with the same exact weapons?
oh, that's a very tough one. If we're going with the Niners, if you're putting like say Josh Allen or Joe Burrow in the Niners offense,
Again,
I
they'll make adaptations too, just like how Shanahan makes adaptations when Trey Lance is in with
yeah.
very little. But I'm just trying to give you a good offensive coordinator that's going to work towards their strengths. Who ends up winning more games?
Um, I think it would probably be Josh.
And why do you think
Just
that? Yep, go ahead.
yeah, so I think it would just be if you can give like Josh an offensive line, I think it would like same would go for Burrow as well, but you give him a really good offensive line. 49ers also have good weapons as well. You have a really good tight end in Kittle. Kittle can also block really well, which is super beneficial. Um, CMC in the backfield, I think, could work really well with Josh Allen just as a, you need to dump the ball off because you're under pressure, whatever. Just get it to CMC. He will make a play happen. Um, I know a lot of what I'm saying would also apply to Burrow. I just feel like with the way, like they tried to draft Trey Lance in hopes that he'd become like a superstar quarterback. So I have a feeling that, the mobility of a guy like Lance, what they were looking for, could work really well with Allen. Like if they want to make, utilize Allen's mobility to his full potential, I think they could do great things, getting him like whether it's designed runs or just setting up so he has like run options. And even if you want to get someone deep or like, Debo Samuel, very good, yak player, get him on like a slant. You want to send like Ayuk deep, whatever it is. I think Josh Allen can fit everything they need and would want just because of his versatility.
Shiesty, any rebuts or what's your take here? If Burrow's on the Niners, and Josh Allen are both on the Niners, who performs better and why?
I think if they were both on the Niners, I think first of all they both end up like 14-3, 15-2. I think Allen would probably end up with more yards and more touchdowns, but I think again Burrow would end up with probably a higher completion percentage, less interceptions, and probably like a higher quarterback rating. Again, pretty much like you said, the Niners drafted Lance. Lance kind of plays like Josh Allen a little bit. At least I'm assuming we haven't seen a lot of Lance in the NFL. But then I could say that Brock Purdy plays kind of like Joe Burrow, just with worse decision making, worse accuracy. Right? Purdy, I think Purdy moves around pretty well in the pocket. He's pretty mobile, and I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize about Joe is because Joe generally like tries to stay in the pocket. When like he realizes that he has to break the pocket, he will. Like he can and he will, and he can do it at a pretty high level. I mean, I think Burr would probably do slightly better just because one, I feel like the Niners' weapons kind of fit more what Cincinnati has. I think Samuel is kind of like Chase. I think Samuel's a little bit more versatile in terms of like lining up in the backfield or whatever. But again, like the Bengals move Chase all over the field, the Niners move Samuel all over the field. And I mean, again, like uh, the Bills have what Dawson Knox. He's no George Kittle, but I mean, look at what Joe Burrow's had. He's had DJ Uzama, who like he was an okay wide receiver, like tight end. He was never great. I don't think he was ever top 10. And last year they had Hayden Hurst, um, who again like was good, not great. I don't think he was top 10. But you give him like George Kittle, I think both quarterbacks. I think you could put pretty much any quarterback in the league and they would thrive. But I think if you put Burrow or Allen, I think Burrow probably has a higher likelihood of winning the Super Bowl, while Allen probably has a higher likelihood of winning MVP, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it just and again accolades and I mean, it is what it is. I mean, both of these guys are going to perform very well on the team that they're on, no matter what. I think again that's why I chose the Niners too because they're so versatile and able to be used anybody. All right, now we're gonna go full circle. Okay, the question at the beginning of this was who's a better quarterback and why. So let me ask you both now. I mean, I don't think anything's changed, but we'll start with you, Shiesty. Who's a better quarterback and why? And let's sum it up that way.
Yeah, I think Burrow beats Allen like literally by the slightest bit. Again, I think it's Mahomes, and then there's a slight space, and then Burrow and Allen are basically like hugging each other on that ranking, and then there's like a drop off after Allen. But I would say again, Burrow, when he's more accurate, too. I think in terms of just being overall in the pocket, I think he's better than Allen is in terms of like being able to stay in the pocket. I think kind of to go back to like the playoffs, like you look in the Bengals Bills divisional game, right? Burrow, he just facilitated the ball. That's what he was asked to do that game. And then, sometimes he's asked to throw for 500 yards. And then when he has to do that, he can go out and do that. I think, or, you look at that Bengals Bills divisional game, where did Allen go? Allen kind of just disappeared. And then even in the second half in the wild card game the week before, where was Allen? Right? They were up, and then all of a sudden Miami came storming back, and they barely won because Mike McDaniel was smoking something on the sideline, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like again, like I would take either quarterback in a heartbeat if you give me, right? You can have Burrow or Allen. I wouldn't care. Like you could like I could flip a coin and whatever I get, I'd be happy with. But I think Burrow edges Allen simply because you look at like Burrow's able. He's just been to a Super Bowl. He's been to 2 straight AFC championships. I think Burrow overall has just like been more of a like I don't want to say like winner than Josh Allen has, but Burrow just has more accolades under his belt. I feel like.
For sure. And then let me ask you, Bills, what do you think and why?
So yeah, like I would say Allen's a bit better. I think Allen is better like physically, like he's he's got like the better physical attributes. I do think Joe Burrow's better like mentally. I think he does make a lot more like better decisions. I do think inside the pocket, I would say Burrow's probably slightly better. Um just when it comes to being a versatile quarterback, I think Allen is probably the best in the league when it comes to that. Obviously, he's competing with guys like Lamar and Mahomes, but Mahomes doesn't run as much as Josh does, and Lamar runs significantly more than Josh does. So, um, just as a literal dual threat, I do think Allen's probably the best. And then, along with, I know he mentioned the playoff performance last year. I don't know that year wasn't great for us just as a team. I don't know whether it was just something going on behind the scenes, whether it was just stuff from like the DeMar situation or whatever it was. Something wasn't right. The team was not clicking like they normally do, which is something you could see. Like when we came out and played the first game against the Rams, we looked unstoppable. We looked like like the normal Bills picking up from last year. But just as the season went on, something I don't know, it wasn't going as well. Whether it could have been Allen's UCL injury too, I don't really know. Something just through that playoff run, it just wasn't. Yeah, like as I mentioned before, Allen doesn't usually like get taken out of games like mentally. Like he's almost always there hyping up his team. He's ready for the comeback. But in that Bengals game, he just looked defeated. Like he'd snap the ball, the offensive line would immediately get blown up. Like it's almost like all the players immediately knew that they weren't winning that game by like halftime. So it was just very demoralizing. But yeah, I do think overall, I'd just have to take Allen, just like he said, by a slight bit. I think almost everyone just has Mahomes at number one, and then Allen and Burrow are like really close together. Like you could switch them pretty much no matter wherever, 2 and 3, and then the other guys are kind of significantly lower. So
No, it is. I mean, it is a very tight race between all these guys, and better quarterback. It is so close. And for me, whenever I look at when someone says who's the greatest quarterback of all time, I look for accolades. I look for the guy that has won the championships. Okay, Tom Brady. Okay, do I think he's the best quarterback of all time? No. And by best, I mean for me, my definition. Again, if you're going to come down to whatever your definition is, I look for talent. Who's the most talented guy in the league? Who's a guy that if I take them and put them in the same exact situation, who's going to perform the best? So, final thing I want to hear is this. Again, stripping them all away from situation. The most talented guys. Now, I just did my top 7 ranking. I'm only going to ask you for 5, and it's going to be shocking because, again, I want to go based off of pure talent, okay? Who do you think would be in your top 5? I mean, and what's your ranking talent-wise? So, I know this is a little bit unprepared and it's going to be tough to do, but Shicey, I'm putting you on the spot. Top 5 based off talent. And again, you
Based off
have some shockers. I mean, yeah, I mean, that to me, that's the best. So who do you think are the most 5 talented that can result in wins and whatnot? But if you strip them of their situation, you're drafting them to be your franchise quarterback. Who would you draft number 1 through 5? Who would you take first? And then, straight to 5. They're available on the board.
So I feel like talents is kind of funny thing, right? Because I don't think Burrow is necessarily the most talented like athlete. I don't think Burrow is even like top tens in terms of most athletic.
Yep.
like overall talented quarterbacks. I think what Burrow does is Burrow's the smartest quarterback in league, and I honestly don't think it's super close. Because right, you guys like Mahomes and Allen, those are just physical specimens. Like those are the top 1% of the top 1%, the top 1% of athletes, right? The things they can do, no one else can do, right? Just in terms of an athletic level, right? Even like Hurts and Lamar, and then Herbert, guys like that. Those are just physical specimens. But like, so then why on earth is Burrow? I'm saying he's the second best quarterback in the league. What makes Burrow the second best quarterback in the league is I think it's his mental ability. I think it's his football IQ, his ability to put the ball exactly where he wants it. So I think you to go strictly off of like just overall physical ability, I wouldn't have Burrow even in the top 10. I think if
Yeah.
you just go physical ability, I think Allen would be one. I think Mahomes would be two, Lamar three, Hurts four, and I'd have Herbert five. I don't think maybe Burrow sneaks in at like 9 or 10 or something. But if you're just going straight off, physical ability, but if you include like the mental aspect of the game, again, my ranking top five would go Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and like a huge drop off. Like you could even like skip four and then go to five and six, have it at like Hurts, and then I don't know. I would like to say Herbert, but I don't think any quarterback has his issues swept under the bed as much as, Herbert does. So maybe Herbert or Rodgers, maybe Lamar. Some people like to put Lamar. He's hurt more often than you want. So my top five would probably have to go Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, drop off, Hurts, and then Herbert.
Okay, yeah. So I want to make so one more time. So let me change my words then. If you're drafting them, okay, what's the order that you're drafting somebody to build your franchise around? Your number one's who then? Mahomes?
It's Mahomes. It's Mahomes, then Burrow, then Allen, and then Hurts, and then Herbert.
So you all right. So I want to make so you're drafted in that order specifically.
Yes, in that order, those would be like the guys that I would draft in my
Okay.
like big board or whatever.
Yep. Bills. What about you? 1 through 5. Who are you taking to build your franchise around? You got nothing implemented yet. You got no offensive coordinator, no offensive line. Who are you taking strictly based off of your guys?
If we're going just strictly off the players as like a raw like prospect, just as their physical talent, Allen's going number one. I'd probably take Mahomes or Herbert number two. If you could flip, whoever's not number two would be number three. Number four would probably be Lamar. And number five, I think you could say uh, between either Russell Wilson or like Kyler Murray or do like Deshaun Watson, I think.
Yeah. So again, that is that the order that you're going to draft then? I mean, I know you said physical talent. So who are those your choices?
So yeah, if I'm going in and we have no idea how any of these guys turn out, I would probably draft in some sort of order like Allen and then either Mahomes or Herbert and then like Lamar and then either like Russell Wilson or um, Kyler Murray or Deshaun Watson.
Yeah. And here, I mean, here's mine. Okay. Again, I love Joe Burrow, but if I'm drafting with nothing around, Mahomes is still one, and it's honestly like I said, it's up in the air, man. I might change it. Josh Allen's number two because again, me personally, you can't deny the traits that he has. He has everything you would want in a franchise quarterback. Burrow does too. Don't get me wrong. Burrow has everything I could ask for. I just feel like Allen. I mean, when you check the boxes like arm strength and mobility, and he's in like the 99th percentile in almost every single category. Now, again, if you want an accurate guy, if you give me, really good wide receivers, if you give me T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and all I need is a guy that can hit it to him accurately every single time, hell, I'm choosing Joe Burrow. Why? Because he's going to hit them every time. If I need a guy that's going to make me plays and that needs to get the ball maybe to someone that's not so good, then I'm going to probably choose Allen because Allen can make a bad team look pretty damn good. And I think Joe Burrow can make a good team look good. I think Joe Burrow can make a pretty all right team look good. But my point is that if you need someone to carry a team, I'm going with with Josh Allen over Joe Burrow because Allen, can make those plays. And I feel like Burrow can too. It's just that Allen has that ability. He has a massive arm. He has a massive zip. He can move out of the pocket. He's the number one ranked guy coming out of college. My number three guy is another guy I had ranked number one. That's Justin Herbert. Again, Herbert to me is a guy that is, I mean, if you compare every little category compared to Allen and every little category compared to Burrow, I feel like he steals some categories compared to these two guys. His mobility, his arm strength, his accuracy. I think he's more accurate than Josh Allen. I think that he has similar zip, to Josh Allen. It's not, Allen probably has an edge, but it's not that far off. Accuracy, I probably still go with Burrow. Touch, I probably still go with Burrow. But that's what I'm saying. Those three guys, I'm going to be honest with you, very dang close. And another guy that I don't think either of you mentioned, Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence is a guy that can do everything these two guys can do. And honestly, again, pretty damn accurate. His mobility, heavily underrated. If you watched a lot of Jacksonville games last year, Doug Peterson's having this guy run RPOs and read options left and right. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. Then I would go Joe Burrow because, again, Joe Burrow to me, out of the top five guys, he is by far, in my opinion, probably the most accurate passer out of all of them. And I probably can say he probably has the best touch too. And that's saying better than Mahomes. So again, if I'm strictly drafting one of these guys to be my franchise quarterbacks, I'm going in that order: Mahomes, Allen, Herbert, Lawrence, Burrow. But my point is this: if my team has weapons and they have really good weapons, and I just need a guy that can get them the ball there accurately, I'm probably going Burrow one. So context is key. But if I'm going to say the best quarterbacks in the league, I can't put Burrow over some of these guys that I feel like that have more talent and potential if I'm building my team. Anybody want to say anything else? Shiesty, I'll let you go because, again, I do have Burrow ranked 5, so I just want to hear what you think.
No, I would just like to say you're looking at kind of like, right, like all their physical traits, right? And like I said, Burrow just isn't, right? He's not the most physically talented guy. So then what makes him, probably a top 3 quarterback in the league? It's his mentality, like I don't like, they say he has the it factor. I don't even know how you quantify it. Like what makes him so good is just the fact that he just is consistently great.
Yep.
Like consistently wins games, right? You get the 10-game win streak that they had last season, right? How is he doing it? He was doing it in a multitude of ways. He can win in any and every way, which I don't even think Mahomes has done that. Mahomes is kind of won by, if Mahomes doesn't necessarily have a great game, the team doesn't win. Burrow can, not have, necessarily like 500 yards, but like if his job is to just throw for 240 yards, like he did in the divisional round against Buffalo, then he'll just throw for 240 yards and just not make mistakes. But if Burrow has to throw for 525 yards in a game, to beat the Ravens back in 2021, he's going to throw for 525 yards. I think his mentally, I think he's like I said, I think he's probably the smartest quarterback we've seen since like Tom Brady.
For
right,
sure.
just his overall football IQ and his ability to read defenses is second to none in the league at this point. So again, you're looking at guys like what made Burrow the consensus number 1 pick in this draft over guys like, physical animals like Chase Young or Justin Herbert. What made Burrow, like, again, ranked higher than those guys? It's just his mental ability. It's just the, like, things that you can't quantify, his abilities that you don't have a way to quantify exactly what it is, but you just know that he has. And that's why I would say, again, I think Burrow is probably the second best quarterback in the league simply because he just wins football games in ways that you don't see a lot of other quarterbacks be able to do.
Yep. He's very consistent. He can win games, and that's something I'm going to tell you right now. Like I said, and Bills, I'm going to say this. I think this is a fair thing to make. If Allen needs to make a push here. I mean, if Burrow goes back to the Super Bowl again, I'm going to have my whole chart's going to change because I need to see Josh Allen take that next step. And I know he's getting you guys that playoffs, but I need to see him get to the Super Bowl. And I know that has a lot to do, like I said, and that's why right now I'm basing off of talent and stuff. But like I said, like Tom Brady would be on my list, and he's not the most talented guy, right? He's not the most mobile, but he would have made the list because he showed me that he can win, and he can get to the game. And that's something that Joe Burrow has been able to show me. He can get there. I just want to see him win one now. And the same thing with Allen. I know he can get to the playoffs now, but I want to see him take that next step. And we'll see. And again, that has a lot to do with his team, but it's going to also have a lot to do with this. When we look back at Josh Allen and Joe Burrow, it's going to be, did they ever win the big one? And that's going to be the main question. The only other thing I want to mention here is like I said, we mentioned, consistency, accuracy. Joe Burrow is that guy. Joe Burrow's a guy that's going to be consistently accurate, consistently win you games. And I feel like you're going to get the same Joe Burrow every single time. And that's why I feel like he can get you through the playoffs. Josh Allen's a guy that's a little bit more inconsistent. He can blow out a team, and then the next game he might throw 3 picks that's going to kill the team. But one thing about Allen, though, he's going to keep fighting. And I love that mentality. And again, you take one game. I mean, you get Josh Allen to the Super Bowl. If he has a good day, that dude may be the reason why they win. If he has a bad day, that might be the reason why he loses. So the consistency factor here is, I don't think anyone's arguing that Burrow is not the most consistent guy out of the two. But who's going to get you to the promised land? Hey, neither of you guys have won a championship yet. Let's wait and see. Last thing I want to mention, okay? And this is actually really...
Can I say one thing quickly?
Yeah, go ahead.
That's fine. you kept talking like you kept saying if you have Higgins and Chase out there, you're talking about Burrow just being an accurate quarterback. I think right, he's not necessarily the playmaker that Mahomes or Allen is, even like Hurts, but Burrow can still, turn broken plays into touchdowns, first downs, fourth down conversions, stuff like that. Burrow is a phenomenal playmaker. If he wasn't, then he wouldn't be top five in the league. You can be right. Look, Kirk Cousins was super accurate. Geno Smith was the most accurate quarterback in the league. Tua, right? So those guys, even though they're the most accurate quarterbacks in the league, right, you didn't see them making the playoff runs. Both the teams were seven seeds. Miami and Seattle, and both of them got knocked out in the first round. So then what makes Burrow, who's the third most accurate quarterback, better than those guys, is also his ability to just make plays. He's not gonna like do it at the same rate as say like Mahomes or Allen. But he can still turn, from what would have been like a 7 yard sack into a like 40 yard like bomb, right? He's not just an accurate guy. He's a big time playmaker. Like I said,
Sure.
not the same level as like Mahomes or Allen, but he still can make plays when he has to make plays. He's not just gonna sit and throw it 7 yards and let his receivers go make plays. And he will do that sometimes, but when like it's a time for him to make a play, he's gonna go out and he's gonna make a play.
Absolutely. And that's why, like I said, I would only say there's about 5 to 8 really elite quarterbacks in the National Football League, and Burrow's one of those guys because, again, he does have that playmaking ability. I'm not taking that away from him at all. It's just like you just said, though, Allen's slightly above that. And again, I'm not going to discredit Burrow here. He has, I think you can argue that he has the best weapons around him in the entire National Football League between Chase, Higgins, Boyd. You got Joe Mixon. Again, that's a superstar running back. Again, you take some of these mediocre quarterbacks that you put around 15, 16, hell, who knows what they could possibly do if they had those weapons, And again, that's not knocking Burrow. That's just a question that everyone should ask. And the same thing, even Diggs Allen has less weapons around him. You can't mention his starting running backs have been Devin Singletary and Zach Moss, so clearly Joe Mixon's better there. His weapon, again, before Stephon Diggs, he didn't really have nobody. But now they do have Diggs. But after Diggs, you've been having Gabe Davis and honestly, Bills, you might have to help me with this one. Who was it, Emmanuel Sanders?
Yeah, we did have Emmanuel Sanders last year, and then other than that, we've had Isaiah McKenzie.
Yeah.
Jamison Crowder broke his ankle in week 3, so we didn't really get to
But
see him.
none of those
But
guys
yeah,
to me, they're not. Again, those are role players. I'm going to be honest with you. T. Higgins is a 1A receiver, in my opinion, in the National Football League. So is Jamar Chase. Those are 2 1As. And again, I'm not situation. Burrow is in a good situation now. He wasn't when he was a rookie. So here's my final question. We got 4 minutes before we get out of this Zoom call. So I want to get this one in. Final one. We both said that these quarterbacks are great. And I honestly think you can make a case that both of these guys could be in that number 1 spot. And I think we just say Mahomes because he's won Super Bowls. And I know that. But look, I want to ask you both this. And seriously, this is the last question. Make it quick. Shicey, I'll start with you. If Patrick Mahomes started with the Bengals when Joe Burrow did, I just want to have a quick statement. He would or he would not have the same career that he's having right now.
I don't think he would. I think Burrow had to have some sort like the it factor, right? Just the mental ability, pick a team up from nothing and carry them to where they are now. I'm not saying Mahomes would have been good, but you look, Mahomes has had a great offensive line his entire career. Burrow has had, a crappy offense. I say crappy, I mean crappy, right? His knee was, right, he got sacked, but and then destroyed his knee, but that's not necessarily like quarterbacks doing any other time. He was just harassed, all rookie season, all during his 2021 season, even during the playoffs. He won a game being sacked 9 times against the Titans. Right, that just goes back to the it factor thing. I don't think Mahomes wins that game against the Titans if he's being sacked 9 times. If I'm being honest. And then again, like that AFC Championship where they beat Kansas City, how many quarterbacks can come back from it was like 14-3 or 21-10 at halftime, right? Against Mahomes, how many quarterbacks are able to come back from that? And I don't think Mahomes would have been able to do it. I don't think Allen would have been able to do it. So, not to say Mahomes wouldn't be, a top 3 guy. I don't think Mahomes would have made it to a Super Bowl if he was in Cincinnati, like in 2020 when Burrow was drafted.
Bills, real fast, Bills. We got to be fast. We got about a minute left in the Zoom call, so we got to make this one quick. If Pat Mahomes was on the Bills when Josh Allen was drafted, would he or would he not be what he is today?
I would say no, just because his situation that he was in, he got to sit behind Alex Smith for the year, and then was given a very good offense to work his way into, whereas Allen was thrown straight in as a rookie with Calvin Benjamin as his wide receiver one and Robert Foster and Zay Jones. So I just don't think he would have had the same amount of success. I think maybe later down the line he could have got somewhere because he is a talented player, but I wouldn't say that like right away he would have been as successful as he was when he got to start.
For sure. And then again, that's what I'm saying, that its situation is key in every situation. And that maybe your guys' two quarterbacks, that they were in Kansas City with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Andy Reid, maybe they have the reins and everyone will be putting them at one and not moving them down the board. That's my whole point. Mahomes is solidified as number one. Nobody really wants to move him down. Be bold. Put your guys over him at some points because, again, there's a case to be made that he wouldn't be what he is today if it wasn't for Andy Reid, that offensive line, and the offensive weapons that he had. And now nobody wants to move him down. There's a case to be made. And again, he has the rings to back it up. So I'm not saying Pat Mahomes may not become one of the greatest quarterbacks ever to play the game, but is he one of the best? Without his situation, I don't know if that's true. Burrow, Allen, two great guys, had a battle in bad situations, and they've been good in bad situations. That's all from me. That's from all of us. Again, find these guys on Instagram, Shicey's Domain and Bill's Mafia. Find them on Instagram. Great content for both you guys. And again, I really want to make this clear. Let us know in the comment section who you think won the debate and who do you think is the best quarterback in the National Football League between these two guys. Don't mention anyone else. Who do you think is better, Joe Burrow or Josh Allen? Let me know. We'll see you guys soon. Peace. We are Built Better.